Hey, hey, what is up, spiritual hooligan? Does your soul need to be saved? Do you need to devote yourself to someone or something or some methodology to make sure that you gain favor and end up in some good place after you die? Today I want to take that on. We're going to look at this through the lens of enlightened perspectives. My name is Matthew Ferry, and I'm bringing you your daily enlightenment. It's your moment to pause, to slow down, and to get connected to enlightened perspectives. I want to help you to quiet your mind and restore your peace. The way you quiet your mind is you remove the mind's motivation to speak in the first place. And that doesn't mean that you will end up not having any thoughts. There are different qualities of thought. You'll find that the vast majority of thoughts that you have today are survival-based, meaning there's something about looking good, being right, fitting in, being happy, being a person who's respected, gathering up resources, blah, blah, blah. If you just examine, you're going to find that the majority of your thoughts are survival-based. But there is other thinking that you experience, and it's that thinking of inspiration. It's that intuitive information that you get. And it's hard to distinguish because a lot of times our intuition presents itself as inspirational, but it has an underlying motivational agenda. So think about all motivation is provided with a motive for acting, and all motivation is going to be survival based. So there's this new voice that appears, and it appears mostly on command, and your mind is mostly quiet when you embrace enlightened perspectives. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through 3 enlightened perspectives today, and these enlightened perspectives are designed to get your mind to start to quiet down. So the idea is, does your soul need to be saved? Do you need to devote yourself to something in order to, in some future state, win favor with some god or some, Shangri-La or something like that will then make it better than it is now? Can you see the conundrum there? Better than it is now. It's not as good as it could be now, and then some future date it's going to be better. That already should tip you off, okay? But check it out. The first statement that tests strong with muscle testing, and thus enlightened perspectives all test strong with muscle testing. I don't know why exactly, but they assume that all is well. And they also assume that there's nothing to do, there's nowhere to go, that everything is perfect exactly as it is. And anything that assumes that strengthens your body with muscle testing. Check out my videos on muscle testing if you need to learn more. Second thing to understand is that anything that assumes that you need to fix something or something's broken or whatever, you'll see that makes you go weak. But check this out. This statement, each of the great avatars throughout history saved our souls, surprisingly test strong. And I was raised a Catholic, but I wasn't really a very good Catholic. I didn't really believe almost anything that was being taught of me, and I questioned everything. And I'm sure that made my Sunday school teachers, aggravated. But either way, I like to put everything to the test, and I put this idea to the test, and it strengthens you. So we can think of Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and other unknown people as people whose presence had a positive impact. Here's the second thing. The appearance of Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and others who are not known saved our souls. This test strong. But check it out. There's a contextual shift to make. This means that their perspective changed the trajectory of the human souls from destruction. Let's call it an entropic force. So if you think about the world is essentially these really small eddies of life and constructive self-organization and giant torrents of destruction and degradation. So those 2 things together create evolution. So human souls were on a trajectory throughout history to be disposed of and be destroyed and go back to a base state. And the idea is that the perspective that these quote-unquote masters provided created a shift and shifted us back into a different direction of order, structure, and function. So you want to think of reality, think of existence as a fractal equation. Not that it is. I don't actually know what reality is or existence is. Neither do you, neither does anybody. So you want to I'm asking you to do a thought experiment. Think of it as a fractal equation. The output gets fed right back into the input and then creates an ever-changing reality. So the output of your experience, which is essentially information coming in from the world, combined with information from your soul and your DNA and your perceptual filters, mixes together, creates a new reality. So think of your reality as a fractal equation. The output gets fed back into the input, and that creates an ever-changing reality. The great avatars were an anomaly in the equation that set it back on track to continue to grow rather than to degrade and be destroyed and go back into the base state. So you want to think of human beings as growing, and then something happens. We tip over into destruction and we're on our way out. We're about to degrade back into base state, and here comes one of the great avatars, boom, and next thing you know, their perspective, which is an input, their idea, their framework, their consciousness, which is an input, changes the direction of humanity, and we move back up into an upward perspective. This is another interesting muscle test. Souls needed to be saved prior to 1986. That test's strong. If you test right now, our souls need to be saved, that test's weak. Souls, there's something about souls is in a degraded state or going into a degraded state, moving in that direction. You'll see that test's weak. Anything that assumes that we're in a downward state in our souls tests weak. Anything that assumes that we're in an upward state in our soul tests strong. That's really simplistic the way that I'm saying it, but I just want you to think of it like that way. It's like we're either building up or we're falling back down. It's like your muscles and going to the gym. You're either building them up or they're degrading back to entropy. It's just the way that the system works that we live in, that we are experiencing, that we are. So this was first discovered by Dr. Hawkins in his consciousness research that he wrote about in his book Power versus Force. If you haven't read that book yet, 100% you got to read that book. I think that my mentor nailed it there. And for some unknown reason, the human souls moved back in the direction of order and integrity after thousands of years of degrading since Jesus had appeared on the planet. And using muscle testing to discern the context that universally strengthens human beings, what we're able to see is that if you test prior to 1986, the soul needs to be saved. This test strong. If you test after 1986, the soul needs to be saved. This test weak. So something happened. In 1986, something shifted, and using muscle testing, we're not able to discern that there was any avatars that jumped onto the planet or came into being at that time, but it was instead the accumulative jump in our consciousness. And so if you think about in the 60s, we started to have what was being called then the dawning of Aquarius. And really what's happening then is all of a sudden people were waking up and saying, wait a second, women's rights matter. We can have sex with whoever we want. This idea of marriage is broken. Government is not really serving us the way we want. They have all this like social revolution started to happen. And in 1986, it gelled. The global consciousness of mankind went from 190, where it had stood for thousands of years, to boom, jumping into the state of integrity on Dr. Hawkins' scale into 200. So does your soul need to be saved? Right now, it tests as weak. So here's the point. When you intentionally believe unprovable dogmatic statements that make you go strong, your mind starts to go quiet. Let me say that again. This is so important. This is an essential part of the rapid enlightenment process. When you intentionally believe unprovable dogmatic statements that make people go strong, your mind goes quiet. When you intentionally believe unprovable dogmatic statements that make people go weak, that make you go weak, your mind chatter goes up. And the reason that your mind chatter goes up is that when you are weakened, you put yourself into a state of compromise. You compromise your physiology and you activate the survival system. When your mind goes quiet, you begin to see things from a whole new perspective. And what perspective is it? I propose that it is an enlightened perspective. That you know that all is well, that you trust that all is well, that you see that you're an infinite being. And I don't want you to take my word for it. Right? I'm just some guy who's saying all these words, blah, blah, blah. Put this to the test for yourself. Today, live like your soul does not need to be saved. Today, live like you're an infinite being and that all is well, and then see what happens. See how it affects you. And if you're inspired, leave me a comment. Leave me a comment about what you're thinking and what you're seeing in this particular conversation. I'd love to connect with you on any direction that you're going to go. I would love it also if you would like this video, if you would share it and comment. Those tell these big platforms that this is something that is shareable. My name is Matthew Ferry, author of Quiet Mind, Epic Life. If you would like, you could also subscribe to my channel. I put out a new daily enlightenment every day. And you can join us over in the Spiritual Hooligans Facebook group. I'll put the link down below. Thank you so much for tuning in to this daily enlightenment.